Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel for another Saturday live stream. And this week we're getting to 2 Kings 5 through 8 and the story of Naaman. But before we get to that, we need to get to the comment of the week. And the comment of the week goes to Selena Felicity White. Congratulations. It wasn't because this is under hang on. Great Creationist Gish Gallop. Okay. It wasn't because of gravity that light wasn't able to escape. It was because of the density of the material that existed. That is, light couldn't escape because it was instantly absorbed. Also, because of the high amount of energy all the photons emitted were gamma radiation. However, due to the rapid inflation expansion of the universe, those gamma rays were stretched out to become microwaves. This is called, darn it, I forgot, cosmic microwave background. This didn't occur until a few thousand years after the initial expansion. I think this is the case, but I too am definitely not an expert on cosmology. So thank you for that, Selena. Um, that was in that was a comment uh, about my um, I did look it up about light couldn't escape until like or matter or whatever, something like that. You'll have to watch the video. Um, until 380,000 years. I can't remember. All I can remember is like 380,000 years after the Big Bang. That's all I remember. Ah, shit, unit. You'd rather be watching Herman than me? Alrighty. So, let's get going with what this video is about, which is making fun of the Bible. And again, Jews, I'm not making fun of you, okay? Promise. I'm making fun of the interpretation of the Bible that I was taught. All right. Sorry about that. Alrighty, moving right along here. 2 Kings 5. Now Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram. Now, remember, Aram is another name for Syria. Not Assyria, just Syria. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Now, bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." can't people just come to other people, especially if they know they're sick? I mean, nowadays there's so many people and so few doctors, relatively speaking, you know. And I mean, honestly, doctors don't know when you're sick. But if you have the power to know when someone's sick, why the fuck do you have to go to Samaria? Anyway, moving on. Verse 4. Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. By all means go, the king of Aram replied. I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. Wow, this dude must have been very valuable to Aram. I doubt that ever happened. Anyway, verse 6. The letter that he took to the king of Israel read, with this letter I am sending my servant Naaman to you, so that you may cure him of his leprosy. As soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robes and said, Am I a god? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me. Oh, nice, nice one. Just how a king should act. Throw a temper tantrum, why don't you? Jesus fucking Christ. If I didn't know that people in the past were like smart, at least some of them were smart, I would swear to God they were dumber than dirt. Verse 8. When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message: Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored and you will be cleansed. Now remember, 7 is numerology. It occurs frequently in the Bible, and it is the number of completion. Alrighty. Uh, verse 11. But Naaman went away angry and said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of his Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot, and cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? So he turned and went off in a rage. Naaman's servants went to him and said, My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, Wash and be cleansed? So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Speaking as an ex-Wiccan, you know what that sounds like to me? Water magic. Verse 15. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. So please accept a gift from your servant. The prophet answered, As surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept a thing. And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. If you will not, said Naaman, please let me, your servant, be given as much earth as a pair of mules can carry, for your servant will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other God but the Lord. But may the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing. When my master enters the temple of Rimmon to bow down, and he is leaning on my arm, and I have to bow there also, when I bow down in the temple of Rimmon, may the Lord forgive your servant for this. Go in peace, Elisha said. After Naaman had traveled some distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said to himself, my master was too easy on Naaman this Aramean by not accepting from him what he brought. As surely as the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him. Okay, so let me explain something. Yeah, right, Tim? So, anyway, um, let me explain something. And this tradition goes back millennia. As far as magic goes, and to tell you the truth, we don't really know how far magic with a K goes back. Okay. Um, any true practitioner of magic is forbidden to receive a gift for what they do for the recipient. So, yeah, that's magic. And it's in the Bible. What is magic doing in the Bible? First, we have God creating man by a golem spell, right? Then we have blood magic because that's what the priests do all the time. That's blood magic, whether you like it or not. And then he's doing water magic with Nahum. What the fuck is this? All right, moving on. Why do I get a bad feeling about Gehazi? Verse 21. So Gehazi hurried after Naaman. When Naaman saw him running toward him, he got down from the chariot to meet him. Is everything all right? He asked. Everything is all right, Gehazi answered. My master sent me to say, two young men from the company of the prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and two sets of clothing. Gehazi, God hates lying unless he's the one that's doing the lying. Verse 23. By all means, take 2 talents, said Naaman. He urged Gehazi to accept them, and then tied up the 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 sets of clothing. He gave them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came to the hill, he took the things from the servants and put them away in the house. He sent the men away, and they left. When he went in and stood before his master, Elisha asked him, where have you been, Gehazi? Your servant didn't go anywhere, Gehazi answered. Oh my God. Verse 26. But Elisha said to him, was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to make money, or to accept clothes, or olive groves and vineyards, or flocks and herds, or male and female slaves? Naaman's leprosy will cling to you and to your descendants forever. Then Gehazi went from Elisha's presence, and his skin was leprous. It became white as snow. God damn it, talk about a vindictive streak. I mean, come on. I get that magic practitioners aren't supposed to gain anything from their good works, right? I mean, I understand that. But my God, Jesus fucking Christ. And Christians wonder why we think God's a monster. Like, his family didn't even do anything. Leave him alone. Shitheel. Anyway, moving on. And what happened to the sons shall not pay for the sins of the father, nor the father pay for the sins of the son? Oh wait, that only applies to people. It doesn't apply to God. Ugh. Okay, chapter 6. The company of the prophets. Ah, hang on. I have no idea what I just did. Hang on. Well, at least it was nice that I knew where we stopped, right? Okay. Oh, this sounds fun. An axe head floats. What the fuck? Alright, moving on. Chapter 6. The company of the prophets said to Elisha, Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, where each of us can get a pole, and let us build a place there for us to meet. And he said, Go. Not exactly sure what they mean by pole. Maybe that they mean some kind of a tent, but I'm not really sure. Then one of them said, Won't you please come with your servants? I will, Elisha replied, and he went with them. They went to the Jordan and began to cut down trees. As one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. Oh no, my lord, he cried out. It was borrowed. The man of God asked, Where did it fall? When he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it in there and made the iron float. Lift it out, he said. Then the man reached out his hand and took it. Um, okay. Did we really need that story? Verse 8. Now the king of Aram was at war with Israel. After conferring with his officers, he said, I will set up my camp in such and such a place. The man of God sent word to the king of Israel, Beware of passing that place, because the Arameans are going down there. So the king of Israel checked on the place indicated by the man of God. Time and again, Elisha warned the king, so that he was on his guard in such places. This enraged the king of Aram, He summoned his officers and demanded of them, "Tell me, which of us is on the side of the king of Israel?" "None of us, my lord the king," said one of his officers, "but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the very words you speak in your bedroom." Am I the only one getting kinky vibes from this? No, I mean, seriously. Am I the only one getting kinky vibes from this? I swear this is like porn in disguise. It could be Tarum. Alright, going on. Verse 13. Go find out where he is, the king ordered, so I can send men and capture him. The report came back. He is in Dothan. Then he sent horses and chariots and a strong force there. They went by night and surrounded the city. And no, for you people who live in Alabama, it is not Dothan, Alabama. Verse 15. When the servant of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. "Oh no, my lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Excuse me. And Elisha prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So, what? God has hundreds and hundreds of helioses? I don't know. The best I can come up with is bullshit. You know, when you're a yucker, when you're a white, you see, they really don't explain this shit to you. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because then you'd stop believing it, but anyway. Alright, moving on. Sorry. As the enemy came down towards him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, "Strike this army with blindness." So he. Shit. I hate when I do that. Strike this army with blindness. So he struck them with blindness, as Elisha had asked. Oh, okay. So God's not a man that he should be ordered by man what to do, but sometimes he does what man wants him to do. Ugh. Is this making any sense to anybody at this time? Thank you, unit. I didn't think so. I mean, hey, if it's God's kink, whatever, you know? As long as it's with a consenting adult. I don't fucking care. Have your kinks. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. So he struck them with blindness as Elisha had asked. Elisha told them, "This is not the road and this is not the city. Follow me and I will lead you to the man you are looking for." And he led them to Samaria. Oh, great Elisha. Lying isn't bad. Wait a minute, it is bad. Oh, wait a minute, it's only bad if you do it against a fellow Israelite. Okay. What a stupid, fucked up book. After they entered the city, Elisha said, "Lord, open the eyes of these men so they can see." Then the Lord opened their eyes, and they looked, and they were inside Samaria. Wait a minute. How could a whole army of blind people follow Elisha? That makes no goddamn sense. Verse 21. When the king of Israel saw them, he asked Elisha, "Shall I kill them, my father? Shall I kill them?" I cannot believe that I used to believe this shit. Or Kent Hovind. All right, moving on. Verse 22. "Do not kill them," he answered. "Would you kill those you have captured with your own sword or bow? Set food and water before them so that they may eat and drink and then go back to their master." Wow, that was pretty generous in that day. So he prepared a great feast for them, and after they had finished eating and drinking, he sent them away, and they returned to their master. So the bands from Aram stopped raiding Israel's territory. Verse 24. Sometime later, Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mobilized his entire army and marched up and laid siege to Samaria. There was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 shekels of silver and a quarter of a cab of seed pods for 5 shekels. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried to him, "Help me, my lord the king." The king replied, "If the Lord does not help you, where can I get help from you for you? From the threshing floor? From the winepress?" Then he asked her, "What's the matter?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son so we may eat him today, and tomorrow we'll eat my son.' So we cooked my son and ate him." I am so glad I didn't eat just before I came on a live stream. The next day I said to her, "Give up your son so that we may eat him." But she had hidden him. Okay, I get this kind of stuff, like when you're starved. I mean, I get it, you know, it it doesn't excuse it, but I get it. But I mean, at least choose, you know, somebody a little bigger than a baby. Yep, it's right there, Lisa. I mean, there's a famine, right? So there's got to be people falling dead all over the place, right? I mean, like I said, I don't endorse this kind of shit, but if you're gonna do it, at least get somebody who's already dead. I mean, I don't blame the people who, you know, crash landed in the Peruvian mountains. I think it was the Peruvian mountains. I mean, I don't blame them, you know. You do what you got to do, right? But I mean, honestly, when the king heard the woman's words, he tore his robes. As he went along the wall, the people looked and saw that, under his robes, he had sackcloth on his body. He said, "May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if the head of Elisha, son of Shaphat, remains on his shoulders today." Uh, what does Elisha have to do with this? It's the king of Aram you should be mad at, not Elisha. This whole this whole fucking story doesn't make sense. Verse 32. Now Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. The king sent a messenger ahead, but before he arrived, Elisha said to the elders, "Don't you see how this murderer is sending someone to cut off my..." I'm not going to say that word. I'm not looking to get demonetized. Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door and hold it shut against him. Is not the sound of his master's footsteps behind him? While he was still talking to them, the messenger came down to him. The king said, "This disaster is from the Lord." Uh, okay, so why are you punishing Elisha? Like I said, no goddamn sense. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer? Chapter 7. Elisha, the Lord says, "About this time tomorrow, a Sia, I don't know how to pronounce that, of the finest flour will sell for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria." The officer on whose arm the king was leaning said to the man of God, "Look, even if the Lord should open the floodgates of the heavens, could this happen?" "You will see it with your own eyes," answered Elisha, "but you will not eat any of it." I'm sorry, you know what this sounds like to me? You know what this sounds like? I'm going to be honest with you. This sounds like, to me, I serve the bigger bully. Nuh-uh, I serve the bigger bully. What? Okay. Verse 3. Getting really tired of this shit, by the way. But I promised I'd go through 8, and we're on 7 already. Now there were 4 men with leprosy at the entrance of the city gate. They said to each other, "Why stay here until we die? If we say we'll go into the city, the famine is there and we'll die. And if we stay here, we will die. So let's go over to the camp of the Arameans and surrender. If they spare us, we live. If they kill us, then we die." Okay. Does anybody have any sense in this story? Was like was like the was like the author of the story doing magic mushrooms or something? Hey, Otangelo, and nobody block Otangelo unless he breaks one of my rules, okay? Verse 5. At dusk they got up and went to the camp of the Arameans. When they reached the edge of the camp, no one was there, for the Lord had caused the Arameans to hear the sound of chariots and horses and a great army, so that they said to one another, "Look, the king of Israel has hired the Hittite and Egyptian kings to attack us." Okay, so I'm not exactly sure when this was written. Um, but uh, the Hittites were the most feared people in the Near East. I mean, they were so feared that people would just open up the gates for them so they could march in. Because if if the city guards opened up the gates for the Hittites would have mercy. But if they had to fight their way, uh, and they did, I mean, they were fierce. Um, then there was no mercy for anybody in the city. So I can definitely see how the Aramaean king would be afraid of the uh, Hittite king. But like I said, I don't know when this was written. And, you know, there were several empires um, going at the same time. I just don't know which empires were going at the same time. All right, going on. So they got up and fled in the dusk and abandoned their tents and their horses and their donkeys. They left the camp as it was and ran for their lives. So remember, collectively heard, jeez, hang on, um, they collectively heard uh, chariots and all that good stuff, right? They collectively heard it. Hmm, you know what? It sounds more like a hallucination to me. And yes, that happens. There really is such a thing as mass hallucination, people. Alrighty. Okay, so look, the king of Israel has hired the Hittite and Egyptian kings to attack us. So they got up and fled in the dusk and abandoned their tents and their horses and donkeys. They left the camp as it was and ran for their lives. The men who had leprosy reached the edge of the camp, entered one of the tents, and ate and drank. Then they took silver, gold, and clothes and went off and hid them. They returned and entered another tent and took some things from it and hid them also. Verse 9. Then they said to each other, what we're doing is not right. This is a day of good news, and we are keeping it to ourselves. If we wait until daylight, punishment will overtake us. Let's go at once and report this to the royal palace. Okay. So these people have leprosy. And according to God's law, people with leprosy are not allowed inside the city. Did they just forget that? Ugh. I really, really, really wish the fucking Bible writers could get their story straight. All right, marching on. Verse 10. So they went and called out to the city gatekeepers and told them, we went into this Aramean camp and no one was there, not a sound of anyone, only tethered horses and donkeys, and the tents left just as they were. The gatekeepers shouted the news, and it was reported within the palace. Okay, so they did not go in the city. Uh, well, at least they've managed to not fuck up something. All right, verse 12. The king got up in the night and said to his officers, I will tell you what the Arameans have done to us. They know we are starving, so they have left the camp to hide in the countryside, thinking they will surely come out, and then we will take them alive and get into the city. One of his officers answered, have some men take 5 of the horses that are left in the city. Their plight will be like that of all the Israelites left here. Yes, they will only be like all these Israelites who are doomed. So let us send them to find out what happened. So they selected 2 chariots with their horses, and the king sent them after the Aramean army. He commanded the drivers, go and find out what has happened. They followed them as far as the Jordan, and they found the whole road strewn with the clothing and equipment the Arameans had thrown away in their headlong flight. So the messengers returned and reported to the king. Then the people went out and plundered the camp of the Arameans. So a seah of the finest flour sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley sold for a shekel, as the Lord had said. Verse 17. Now the king had put the officer on whose arm he leaned in charge of the gate, and the people trampled him in the gateway, and he died, just as the man of God had foretold when the king came down to his house. It happened. Wait a minute. It, it happened as the man of God had said to the king. About this time tomorrow, a seah of the finest flour will sell for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria. There's nothing in there about anybody dying. Anyway, why do I expect the Bible to make sense? Oh, here's an explanation. Verse 19. The officer had said to the man of God, Look, even if the Lord should open the floodgates of heaven, could this happen? The man of God had replied, You will see it with your own eyes, but you will not eat any of it. Um, that's not exactly predicting the death of someone now, is it? Oh my God. Verse 20. And that is exactly what happened to him, for the people trampled him in the gateway, and he died. Chapter 8. Now Elisha had said to the woman whose son he had restored to life, Go away with your family and stay for a while wherever you can, because the Lord has decreed a famine in the land that will last 7 years. The woman proceeded to do as the man of God had said. She and her family went away and stayed in the land of the Philistines 7 years. At the end of 7 years, she came back from the land of the Philistines and went to appeal to the king for her house and land. The king was talking to Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, and had said, Tell me about all the great things Elisha has done. Just as Gehazi was telling the king how Elisha had restored the dead to life, the woman whose son Elisha had brought back to life came to appeal to the king for her house and land. Gehazi said, This is the woman, my lord, the king, and this is her son whom Elijah restored to life. The king asked the woman about it, and she told him. Then he assigned an official to her case and said, Give back everything that belonged to her, including all the income from her land from the day she left the country until now. Verse 7. Elisha went to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, was ill. When the king was told, The man of God has come all the way up here, he said to Hazael, Take a gift with you and go to meet the man of God. Consult the Lord through him. Will I recover from this illness? Hazael went to meet Elisha, taking with him as a gift 40 camel loads of all of the finest wares of Damascus. Somehow I highly doubt that. He went and stood before him and said, Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, has sent me to ask, Will I recover from this illness? Elisha answered, Go and say to him, You will certainly recover. Nevertheless, the Lord has revealed to me that he will in fact die. He stared at him with a fixed gaze until Hazael was embarrassed. Then the man of God began to weep. Oh, more lying. Well, I guess if it's God approved, it's okay, right? Just make sure it's God approved. You don't want to lie unless God approves of it. Verse 12. Why is my Lord weeping? Asked Hazael. Because I know the harm you will do to the Israelites, he answered. You will set fire to their fortified places, kill their young men with the sword, dash their little children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women. Yeah, we really needed that image in our heads. And you think, Otangelo, that this is a good book. You think that this is a good book. Verse 13, Hazael said, How could your servant, a mere dog, accomplish such a feat? The Lord has shown me that you will become a king of Aram, answered Elisha. Then Hazael left Elisha and returned to his master. When Benhadad said, What did Elisha say to you? Hazael replied, He told me that you would certainly recover. But the next day he took a thick cloth, soaked it in water, and spread it over the king's face, so that he died. Then Hazael succeeded him as king. I have no words. I have no fucking words. Moving on, verse 16. In the 5th year of Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, when Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, Joram, son of Jehoshaphat, began his reign as king of Judah. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem, rather, 8 years. Sorry, folks. 18. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, for the sake of his servant David, the Lord was not willing to destroy Judah. He had promised to maintain a lamp for David and his descendants forever. In the time of Jehoram, Edom rebelled against Judah and set up its own king. So Jehoram went to Zair with all his chariots. The Edomites surrounded him and his chariot commanders, but he rose up and broke through by night. His army, however, fled back home. To this day, Edom has been in rebellion against Judah. Libnah revolted at the same time. As for the other events of Joram's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the king of Judah? Jehoram rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. And Ahaziah, his son, succeeded him as king. Verse 25. In the 12th year of Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah, a granddaughter of Omri, king of Israel. He followed the ways of the house of Ahab and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as the house of Ahab had done, for he was related by marriage to Ahab's family. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Seriously. Okay. Ahaziah went with Joram son of Ahab to war against Hazael king of Aram at Ramoth Gilead. The Arameans wounded Joram, so King Joram returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds the Arameans had inflicted on him at Ramoth in his battle with Hazael king of Aram. Then Ahaziah son of Jehoram the king of Judah went down to Jezreel to see Joram son of Ahab because he had been wounded. Oh, goody. A good old fight with good old Otangelo. Eh, he loves it. He wouldn't come here if he didn't. And, I'm not going to ban him because he really doesn't do anything. I mean, yeah, if he wants to give me views, hell, let him. But, Otangelo, I really want to know, you think a God like this is good? You really think? I'm really asking. I want an answer. I'm really asking. You think, you really think in your heart of hearts that this is a good God? I am reading everything from the Bible, chapter by chapter. Okay? I'm showing you so you know what I'm reading you. Okay? You saw it with your own eyes. And you think this is a good God? Look at Angelo. If he was a weakling God, you know, I could forgive him, you know, but he's supposed to be all powerful. This is not an all good God, Otangelo. Yeah, Lisa, that's why I'm trying to save them. I'm trying to save them from their own ignorance. I mean, they have no idea how farcical their belief system really is. Otangelo, I'm waiting for an answer. You think this is a good God? Well, here in America, they're hurting other people too, but I'm not even going to get into that. That's not what this channel's about. For the 100 millionth time, Otangelo, you think this is a good God. I guess he I guess he can't say yes because if he says yes, then we're going to pile on top of him because he knows he can't say yes. He knows that he cannot say yes. This is a good God. Anybody, any God, all powerful, would not do this. What I just read in those chapters that I just read, there are some disgusting things in the Bible. I mean, really, very, very disgusting things in the Bible. But those chapters that I just read are some of the most disgusting I have ever read. And I've read the entire Bible more than once. Yeah, Tarum, yeah, I did. I believed he was all good. I mean, that's what the yuckers are all about. They're all about the quad omnis. And I was a yucker. So, yeah. No, I'm totally willing to admit it. Until I read the Bible. You know, come to think of it, that's probably why Christians don't read their Bible. Because if Christians really read their Bibles, they wouldn't be Christian anymore. I have a challenge for you, Otangelo. You read the Bible chapter by chapter from Genesis to Revelation. Don't skip any chapters, okay? Chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And you come back and you tell me that you think this is a good God. That is my challenge to you. Otangelo, it really isn't a frightening world. It really isn't. It's so much more beautiful when you have the scales taken off your eyes. So much more beautiful. But that's my invitation to you. Read it from Genesis to Revelation without skipping any chapters. That's my challenge to you. And if you want to still be a Christian after that, fine. I really don't give a shit what you believe. As long as it's not harming, as long as you're not harming others, I don't really give a shit. But you should know what you believe, and you don't. You should know what kind of nonsense you are putting your stamp of approval on without even knowing it. And yes, whether you know it or not, if you put your stamp of approval on the Bible, any nonsense that is contained in that book that you don't know about, you still put your stamp of approval on because this is in the Bible. And Tarum, yes, I was a true believer. I was very much a true believer. Alrighty, folks. Well, I will see you tomorrow for Atheist Church, and we're going to find out what Ziz was. Never heard of Ziz? Well, I bet a lot of Christians have never heard of Ziz either. So, take care, and till tomorrow, have a good night, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Same Lisa time, same Lisa channel. Oh, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can uh, spend 99 cents a month, become a member, please. Alrighty, thanks. Bye.